Hello, everyone, and welcome to our penultimate session of CME Palooza Fall. CME Hot Topic Spin-the-Bottle, session sponsored by ACHL and Academic CME. Our panelists are Art, Antonio, Jess, Audrey, and Kurt. They will all have the opportunity to introduce themselves to you in just a minute. Let me go over to my slides. I will be moderating this session. I've had a double espresso and I'm ready to go for the last one for me. Anyway, there's one more after this, so stick around. Our sponsors, our gold sponsors, Haymarket Medical Education, Med Learning Group, Platform Q Health Education. Big thank you to them. Our silver sponsors, Academic CME, ACHL, Antidote Education Company, Clinical Education Alliance, Daiichi Sankyo. Slide. DKB Med, Helio CME, Integrity CE, Medscape Projects and Knowledge, Talum Health, and our bronze sponsors, Answers in CME, XDev, Bonum Continuing Education, Catalyst Medical Education, Semiology, Excalibur Medical Education, Global Education Group, Goodwin Group, Infograph Ed, Integritas Communications, Iridium Continuing Education, Leading Learning, MedIQ, PACE, Paradigm Medical Communications, PriMed, QDCME, Peer Review Institute for Medical Education, Research to Practice, Touch Independent Medical Education, Vindico Medical Education, and Right Medicine. As always, two ways that you can ask questions. You can use our Horizon CME text line, 267-6660-CME. And you can also use the YouTube chat. Just go to watch on YouTube on the screen, and you can use the YouTube chat function. I'll be monitoring both of those for any questions that may come in during the session. Poll Everywhere. There will be one session, Jess's session, where we'll be using Poll Everywhere, so you might want to get that ready. You can either use the Poll Everywhere app, CME Palooza 005, or you can type the following URL into your web browser, pollev.com/CME Palooza 005. Both of those work just fine. Speaker disclosure. Any opinions, discussions, and or conclusions expressed are those of our panelists and do not represent an endorsement by or a position of their employer, its parent company, or affiliates. So you'll have to bear with me a little bit during the session because I do have to do a bit of flipping back and forth between slides and our very special wheel. This is how this is going to work. I'm sure you're all noticing right away that this is CME Spin the Bottle, and this is not a bottle. It is a wheel. That's true because I could not find a bottle anywhere on this very elaborate free website that I found, spinthewheel.io, if anyone wants to make your own wheel to spin. And so what we will do is we will spin the wheel to see who goes first, second, third, fourth throughout. Whoever is selected will come on. They will introduce themselves, introduce their topic, what that may be, and then they have about 5 to 8 minutes of time to present their topic. I will be very strict with the time, so we make sure we get through all of them. And then when they're done, we'll open it up for about 2 minutes for the rest of the panel to respond, ask any questions, or perhaps provide any insight that they may have on the topic being presented. And if there's any questions from the audience, we will address those as well as time allows. And then we will repeat. So no one knows. This is not rigged. No one has any idea who is going first or second, but we are going to spin the wheel and see who gets to go first. Pretty dramatic. Yay, it's Kurt. All right.
Yes.
So hold on. I have to stop sharing. I have to come back to the screen and let me grab. Kurt has some slides. Congratulations, Kurt, on being first up. You feel honored with that?
I do feel honored. I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
Get it out of the way.
Let me find your slides.
Welcome, everyone.
Oh, I found them. Hold on.
Good afternoon.
There we go. Can you see those okay?
I can, yes.
Okay. Take it away.
Great. So I only have 7 minutes here. So again, I am Kurt Snyder. I am the Executive Director of CME at Stanford University. and I have a whole 7 minutes to talk about upskilling. So I could probably talk about this for a few days. Next slide, please. I am a lifelong learner myself. I am currently pursuing a master's degree in digital media design. So I'm a firm believer in lifelong learning. I also have a subscription to Masterclass. I am often known to get on LinkedIn and do TED Talks. And so I feel like I'm constantly learning. These first two slides are just kind of like icebreakers in the sense of, hey, if you're not learning, Albert Einstein says, once you stop learning, you start dying. I'm a firm believer that you should always try to grow personally. And so I love this quote here. And next slide, one of my favorite people in the whole world is Benjamin Franklin. I think he was an amazing person because he did so well in so many different things. So I always try to aspire to be versatile myself. He said an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And so there's nothing that you can do better than trying to improve yourself and to try to help the world by learning and improving yourself. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through a few different definitions. My talk's about upskilling, but I just want to make sure we're kind of level set some of the words you might hear in this space. So upskill is when you're developing new skills or upgrading existing ones to meet evolving demands. This approach focuses on training employees to stay current with the latest technology and practices. So again, this is something that I aspire to do personally. Fortunately, I work for a place that provides funding for other degrees. So at Stanford, we were able to spend up to $5,000 a year towards a degree. It's one of the reasons why I'm dripping out my master's degree, is so that I can almost get it for free. I just kind of drip it out over time. It takes time. And then also my office often supports professional conferences like the Alliance and SACME and ACCME and stuff like that. So we're constantly trying to figure out ways to upskill not only ourselves, but the entire team. Next slide, please. Close to that is reskilling, learning new skills to transition to a different role or field. One of the things that's interesting, we've all heard about how things are evolving. People are staying at jobs less frequently. You might not have heard, though, that people are more and more actually changing careers. This is kind of a new concept. So people are actually changing entire careers. And so I encourage you to think about not only the job and the career that you're in, but also start thinking about how you have transferable skills and when you might want to go into new jobs and new careers, because you can never anticipate what's going to happen down the road. I work and live in Silicon Valley. There's been a lot of layoffs. And so sometimes you're not expecting these things to happen. So I encourage you to always make sure that you are in a position where you're not only looking for the next job in your career, but you have transferable skills for new careers. Next slide, please. Another word you might hear is on-ramping. So if you've taken time off, maybe you've gone on maternity leave or paternity leave, or you just taking time off for mental wellness, you might need to on-ramp into making sure you brush up on your skills and those kind of things. Next slide, please. This is your classic education, providing training and development. So a couple things I want to say about this. First of all, again, I really encourage you to take control of your own professional development, and so make sure you're doing things that you can. But if you are a manager, I encourage you to make sure that you are doing the best you can to support your staff so that they have professional development. Your job is not to keep your staff at your place of employment forever. Your job is to coach them, mentor them, make them happy, and hopefully they will grow within your team. But if they don't, and they grow and they move on, that's great too. Support them either way. I kind of view it as my job is to kind of create an environment where people are productive and happy. And I think that is helpful for the entire team. And when people do leave, I support them and I want to become their biggest cheerleaders. So the other thing I would say to you, if you are working in an environment in which you feel like you're not supported and you do not have the tools, you do not have access to professional development, I think that at a certain point, you have to look and reflect on yourself and figure out, is that the right environment I want to be in? If you've been unsuccessful in changing that. And so again, I encourage you to work for some place that really supports professional development. It makes your life so much easier and better if you have the tools and resources and support from your leadership to continue to grow. Next slide, please. Outskilling is kind of a new term for me. AI definitely applies. You want to start thinking about ways in which you're learning things that you may not even think is necessary for your job, or things that you may not even be able to anticipate. I think of lean historically, something like this, but with AI, this is just changing so fast. I really encourage you to kind of continue to upskill and learn new skills related to AI. Next skill, please. Next slide, please. All right, so why would you want to upskill? And so, as I mentioned earlier, is job security and relevance. So you never know what's going to happen with your own job, and you just want to make sure that you are always making sure that you are trained and current on what is necessary for your own job. Sometimes it's easy to get a job and not think about, oh, I need to continue to improve to maintain that job. You never know what's going to happen. And so again, I encourage you to always think about ways in which you can continue to learn. With AI coming and with AI being here, we are in a revolutionary state, transformation state. There's so much to learn. And so just for job security and relevance, I encourage you to continue to upskill. Career advancement. Clearly, if you want to move up in your career, having new skills and having skills that you want to move into is helpful. Finally, personal growth and satisfaction. It's one of the reasons why I do it. Sometimes I feel like I don't necessarily need to get a new degree, but having additional credentials is helpful. Next slide, please. How to get started, self-assessment. It's always easy to think about what jobs do I want, and then figure out what's required for those jobs. That's just like a classic no-brainer of if you aspire to do something else, whether it's in your current career or a new career, figure out what are the skills necessary for that job, and then figure out and create a pathway between where you are now, where that is. Another classic thing you can do is just ask your peers, managers for feedback. You can do that formally, you can do that informally, you can create a survey, you can do a 360, you can do an informational interview. Think about if there's credentials that are needed. Do you need a master's degree? Do you need a CHCP? Do you need a project management degree? I will always advocate for, it's never not a good thing to focus on foundational skills. Communication and emotional intelligence, problem solving, project management, teamwork, technology will help you with no matter what you do. So always be working on those skills. And formal and informal sources, master's degrees, again, the credentials, courses, university, Coursera, LinkedIn, ACCME Academy. ACCME's added a lot of stuff. It's pretty good if you haven't checked it out. Workshops and conferences, ACCME, ACHP, SACME, CME Palooza, this conference, UPSEA are awesome. I love TED Talks. I love podcasts. I love blogs. Coaching and mentoring is like the new thing now. Coaching, you almost find it everywhere now, it seems like. But so that's the classic thing. Things that you can reflect on: current job, what skills do I need? New job, what skills do I need to move into that role? And then finally, what skills would I need for a new career? So think about those, and feel free to ask those questions or answer them in the chat. So again, thank you. I know I didn't have much time, but thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the first Kisser too, by the way.
That was good. Thanks, Kurt. Rest of the panel, any comments, questions from you?
Kurt, can you quickly kind of, how would you package, you called it formal, informal. I thought I've heard structured versus unstructured learning, where it's like a true like graduate level program versus things you're finding on LinkedIn. How would you kind of differentiate the two as you're gaining skills?
I love the unstructured because there's no commitment and there's so much of it out there. Sometimes though, without the structure, I won't do it. So you have to kind of balance yourself too. Like what will I actually do? When you take an actual class and you have homework and you have projects and stuff like that, it forces you to do it. And so that can be helpful sometimes. And so sometimes, and it also can be more rigorous, to be honest with you. Sometimes if you're just listening to a TED Talk, it's like, hey, it sounds cool, but you don't do anything with it. Whereas when you take a more formal class, oftentimes it's more rigor, so it's better. But I think the key really is, do you have the wherewithal to do it yourself. And sometimes the former structure can be helpful. And by the way, if you want the actual credential, then oftentimes the former way is the way to go.
Great. All right. Thank you both. Time to bring back the wheel. Where will it stop? Presenter number 2 is going to be... Well, it goes down there. Yes! All right.
Yay, it's me.
All right. Hold on. Let me get yours. And everyone get ready. There will be a couple of poll questions. Let me share your screen and find, I believe these are yours. Yes. All right, Jess, whenever you are ready.
All right. So, hey, y'all. I'm Jess Henry. I'm a CME specialist with Nuvance Health. And in my little time here, we're going to just talk about the standards. Now, they've been out for like 4 years now, and we're going to talk about standards 2 through 5. So let's start with standard 2. Next slide. So we're going to do cases, and then I'll have you respond, and then we'll talk about why it's wrong or not. So for this one, Alfred Memorial Hospital is preparing for its inaugural Neuroscience of Amnesia Conference, where Dr. Pinderschloss is set to present a case discussion about her son Gordon's experience with amnesia. During a final speaker meeting, Dr. Pinderschloss expressed interest in discussing her newly written book during her presentation and requested to sell copies in the lobby. Now, Marticia Adams, who's a member of this planning committee, has supported this idea and arranged for a retail table to be set up for book sales during the event. So, thinking about that, what is the issue with Dr. Pinderschloss promoting and selling?
Mm-mm. Did we lose Jess? Jess, are you there? Ooh. I think we might. Oh,
Can you hear me?
oh, you're back.
Sorry.
You're back. Yes, sorry. And man, the poll everywhere. Questions are not coming up. Hold on. You know what, Jess? Let's just move on. You give us the answer. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So it's promoting and selling her book is the problem. So in standard 2.2, it says they can't promote or sell any products that will serve them professionally or financially. So in this case, her book promotes her profession and her finances. Next slide. So we're going to do standard 3, which is to identify, mitigate, and disclose relevant financial relationships. So Columbia Medical Center is organizing its upcoming Innovations in Plastic Surgery Symposium with Dr. Everett B. Scott and Brad Majors scheduled as their speakers. However, Brad serves on the board of directors for Magenta Inc., a company that manufactures medical equipment and plastic surgeries. Due to his affiliation with this, it was decided that Brad was excluded from speaking at the symposium. Next slide. So why was Brad Majors not allowed to be the speaker at this conference? Because he has a personal conflict with Dr. Scott? He has a scheduling conflict? He's more in line with the business? Or his financial relationship can't be mitigated? This slide.
I'm just going to move them on just because I can't get the question to come up. Sorry
Gotcha.
about that.
So his financial relationship cannot be mitigated. And this is because since he's on the board of directors, he has a fiduciary responsibility for the company's success. And he doesn't meet any of the 3 exceptions that are under standard 3. Next slide. So last spring, Denison Hospital hosted its cardiology conference, offering registration at 2 different rates. They received a $5,000 educational grant from Sanderson Therapeutics. Now, they use this amount to offset some of the cost for the physicians only. This was a great success. The physicians loved it, and they even put that on their evaluations. Next slide. So, is this something that can be done? Can Denison Hospital use the grant from Sanderson Therapeutics to reduce the physician registration fees? Yes, they can use it because it's an they can use any part of the conference that they want. The fees improve overall engagement and attendance. They can't because it's prohibited. Or no, they can't use it for any registration related expenses. So the answer is C here. They can't use it to reduce the registration fees for only one group. So standard 4.1D says that it has to be for all, and all is the key word here. If they do it for one, they do it for all. Otherwise, they do it for none. Next slide. So standard 5 is the last one of the excuse me, 5 standards. So this one is manage ancillary activities that are offered in conjunction with accredited continuing education. So Lydia Dietz is developing an enduring material on medication dosing for patients with jaundice-related skin discoloration. She received an educational grant from Maitland Medical, which stipulated in their letter of agreement that a 30-second commercial from the company must be included midway through the educational content. Next. So is this something that she can do? She can, because it's part of the agreement, and it would breach the contract if she didn't. As long as it's clearly separated from the educational content to avoid any bias, she could. She can't because there can't be any promotion or advertisement. She can't, but she could if the commercial was evidence-based medical information that's directly related. Next slide. So the answer is C here. It's the learners must not engage with product promotion or advertisement. So this is specific to standard 5.2 in the B. And learners have to be able to engage in the education without being interrupted or having to click through or watch any kind of product promotion or product specific advertisement. So she would not be able to do that. So that is standard 5.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Sorry for the question issue, but actually timing-wise, that worked out just fine.
All right.
For that. So I appreciate it. Rest of the panel, any questions or comments?
Jess, I have a question.
Yes.
How does, given the size of your institution, how does your organization approach identifying and mitigating the conflicts of interest?
Well, I'm still new here, still learning, but we used a platform, Eve, to help do all that. But it's really leveraging your resources, whether it's a course director, if you need slide reviews or things like that. But leverage the technology to help you the best you can.
So you're not mitigating yourself. You're relying on the technology and the physician to help with that process.
Primarily, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's insightful.
And we did have a question from the audience we can do quickly. Can a presenter cite their own book?
Oh, that's a great question.
That just put everybody on the spot. We'll get back to you on that one.
Good question, Susan.
One to look into. Okay, great. Let me pull up the wheel. 3 people left, each with their own color. That's nice. Is it going to be? Looks like Antonio. Fantastic.
I wish I got that reception at home.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, you too can make your own wheel if you want. All right, give me a second. I got to pull up your slide.
Yes, I appreciated the subtle nod to spooky season Halloween movies.
I'm glad you like that. Every case was based on a Halloween movie.
I saw it. I got it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I am Antonio Mio. I am a director of medical education with Daiichi Sankyo. I've been with Daiichi Sankyo for several years now, and in IME for going on about 8. I have the opportunity to continue the discussion of external medical education with all of you. And within the time period that we have, I'm not going to be able to get into a lot of details. So just really want to reiterate some key points for you to continue to think about as we have these conversations. So on the slide here, on the left, this chart is a really nice overview of the type of funding opportunities from industry for external education. This has been borrowed from a white paper published by Medical Affairs Professional Society. This white paper is open access, so anyone can go and find it if you want. If you have trouble, just let me know. I can get you a link. Chart is being used with permission from the lead author. All authors and contributors are members of the medical education community. And when you see the list, you'll recognize everybody there. So just using this as an anchor so you don't have to stare at me the entire time as I kind of walk through these bullets here for you. But not that you need to hear this, but industry-led education is not new. Everybody knows this. Commercial and marketing teams have been doing education for many years. They develop proactive promotional education. A simple example is thinking about a product theater, something that it moves the scientific discourse, but obviously includes very specific information about products, devices, or assets within the industry's domain. Medical affairs teams have been doing reactive education for their teams to use with engagements with HCPs, but increasingly more are starting to use and develop more proactive educational. These are non-promotional, typically disease state, or they talk about specific biomarkers or targets within diseases. They look at guideline-based care recommendations or clinical pathway information. And increasingly more, they're talking more about ongoing clinical trials, and sometimes even talking about some of the trial data that can be found. So you have commercial and marketing teams doing education, you have medical affairs doing more proactive education, and then you have the traditional IME grant funding that we all are more familiar with. Internally within industry, we're having much more of these conversations, and it's really important as grant funders get pulled into these conversations, the strategy should not be but more comprehensive. And what do I mean by that is it can no longer be a conversation about it should be IME or company-led education or industry-led education. What we're trying to do is figure out the strategy and goals and make it much more comprehensive and layered upon each other so that each of the tactics are working simultaneously, but also somewhat independently, so they're not encroaching on each other, or we're not cannibalizing the resources and the HCPs that we're all trying to target, but we're proactively and effectively just providing more useful resources for these HCPs. So if industry-led education isn't new, and these conversations are being much more comprehensive to include all types of education, why do we continue to talk about this for the last 2.5 years? I think one of the main reasons is we're starting to see more third-party education being developed independently, but with financial support from industry. And I think that's what this chart kind of nicely outlines here for everyone to take a look at, is the independent education that we think of through grant giving is accredited. It offers CME, but as you make your way to the yellow and green on these slide on this chart here, you start seeing more funding becoming available for this third-party education, where sometimes it is the education that's being developed is still independent from the industry supporter, and it's being funded through things like sponsorship that may offer tangible benefits, or through a statement of work, which is purely fee for service. But the content is still not being driven by industry, versus content that is being funded completely by industry, and industry members have a say in things like faculty selection or learning objectives or modes of distribution. So all of this is why this list is really helpful but not comprehensive, is because a lot of this is driven by each organization's legal and compliance team, their interpretation of guidelines and standards, and their willingness and comfort level to operate in that gray area of what kind of information can be discussed depending on how things are being funded. And this kind of all ladders up to this last piece of compliance and really understanding that how education is being funded, what kind of education is being funded, and what is the content that can be discussed depending on how it's funded. And I kind of gave some of those examples before, where we really need to focus on more about the dollars that are being used and the influence in the content, and how it's being funded drives the influence in that content and what can and can't be influenced when we're developing this education. If I can leave you with anything, the most critical piece of this is, again, it's not about an or strategy of education, but what this boils down to is making it abundantly clear to our HCP learners how the education was funded, and if or there was industry involvement in the development and the distribution of that education. They're looking for this content regardless. So it's just making it very clear the level of involvement from industry. And it's not just important that the HCPs and our learners know the differentiation. We have to make it very clear for any other eyes who are monitoring medical education, because we do not want anyone kind of stepping in to evaluate education and say, well, is this truly independent? Or are you trying to kind of get around guidelines of independent education to promote certain diseases or therapeutic areas in a non-compliant way? And so when we have these conversations, it's not about one education may be better than the other. It's thinking about the goal of what that education is for, thinking about the learners that we're trying to generate this content for, and making it clear that there's independent education that's accredited for CME. There's independent education that may be funded from industry. And then there's education that industry is funding and or developing and disseminating all entirely through themselves.
Great. Thanks, Antonio. Panel, any questions or comments from you?
I am thinking about all of this, Antonio, and I appreciate you describing how there are all these separate items that are happening and you're trying to make them work together. Can you share anything about in terms of compliantly rolling out all of this information in more of a comprehensive curriculum? How is the information about what IME is funding and what's being developed as company-led being shared internally?
Within internal teams, we had a really nice session at the Alliance Industry Summit, actually, where we've had a lot of examples about the conversations that are ongoing with internal industry teams. And thankfully, grant funding teams are being pulled into those conversations to really help guide that conversation. We have a very good understanding of what accredited or non-accredited independent education should be. And a lot of times we're using the ACCME, we're using references from OIG, the FDA, Pharma Code, and the Alliance as well, and starting from that base and then working backwards. I always try to instruct our teams, like, assume this should be an independent grant. And then after we really get into the weeds of it, it's easier to open it up and be more engaged than it is to close it once that box is open. But a lot of industry teams are starting to rely on grant giving teams to just kind of level set what is appropriate and compliant and the conversations that they shouldn't be having.
Quick question, Antonio, came in on our Horizon CME text line. Can companies who do industry supported non-promotional education also do CME?
Again, that's going to be dependent upon the industry supporter. I know based on conversations, as long as oftentimes there's a firewall that can be clearly pointed to within that organization, and there are two teams working independently. So somebody that's submitting grants and doing independent education versus somebody that may be doing promotional or independent education third party. But outside of that, again, it's really just depends on your organization and the level of comfort that they have.
Great. And then the last question is, can we get a link to the white paper?
Yes, it is on that slide, but if anyone has any difficulty Googling it, you can.
I'll post it on the CME Palooza website.
Perfect. Or you can find me online and I can get you a copy as well.
Great. Okay. Back to the, thanks, Antonio. Back to the wheel. To left. Who's it going to be? 50-50 chance. It's going to be Art. Get the fanfare. There you go.
Good afternoon,
Who will be the
everyone.
last one? Hard to say. Okay. Let me grab your slides, Art. Screen. Let's see, where are yours at? There they are. There we go. Okay. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start with a bold statement. It's not AI that's going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use it might. I say this to emphasize just how important it is for us to learn and leverage AI. AI is not here to replace our expertise, but to amplify it. The ones who master AI will be the ones driving innovation, leading change, and making the most meaningful contributions to the future of healthcare education. Today, over the next few minutes, we'll explore how AI can transform our CE process, helping us work smarter, become more efficient, and ultimately improve outcomes for our learners and patients. Next slide, please. Let's define AI. It refers to the simulation of human intelligence by machines that can think, learn, adapt, and ultimately assist us in our work. In CE, I exclusively rely on OpenAI's ChatGPT. Using this trusted platform ensures the support I receive is secure and effective, two things that are essential when working in healthcare education. Next slide, please. AI has many applications, but today we're going to focus on three key areas where I can transform CE for new users. Specifically, we'll explore how it can enhance continuing education by handling repetitive, time-consuming tasks, freeing us to focus on strategic work, helping us ensure our CE activities meet accreditation standards while reducing the burden of the administrative burdens, and streamlining how we identify grant opportunities and conduct market analysis. Next slide, please. One of the most important ways AI supports us is by automating our administrative tasks. I frequently use ChatGPT to draft sensitive emails, even while commuting. I have a 2-hour drive from home on occasion. It's been invaluable for brainstorming strategies in various levels. Additionally, I use it to create SOPs by recording and transcribing step-by-step instructions. This ensures consistent process across the hospital. AI also summarizes consultations and captures action items, streamlining our workflow and ensuring seamless follow-ups. Next slide, please. When it comes to accreditation and compliance, AI plays a critical role. I use ChatGPT to assess the strength of professional practice gaps, evaluate underlying needs, and review applications to ensure an alignment with ACCME and joint accreditation standards. Whether I need it to act as a CE expert or an interprofessional practice specialist, AI helps refine our content to close the educational gaps effectively. It also drafts meeting minutes and summarizes conversations, helping us meet compliance standards without the administrative burden. Next slide, please. Finally, AI plays a significant role in supporting the financial health of our CE activities. I follow a model similar to the one used at the Mayo Clinic, where I input course information and AI helps identify potential pharmaceutical and device companies that align with our content. AI also helps with drafting necessary correspondence and marketing materials to secure support for our CE courses. This goes beyond automating the process. It's about maximizing our time and resources, allowing us to focus on initiatives that truly advance education and patient care. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was great. Did you say a 2-hour drive, by the way?
Yes, it could be up to 2 hours.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Throw out a number. Is AI helping you be 10% more productive, 20%? What would you say?
Well, you know, I measure in terms of time. Just I'll just use gap analysis. You know, identifying highly cited papers so that you can write gaps or help the physicians. I recall spending, you know, I could spend 12 hours a day just between my work and then trying to assist with these consultations and applications. I know that I can comfortably today work 8 to 10 hours and keep it within that window. I'm living in ChatGPT in every aspect of my work.
Amazing. It's great.
Art, we did have a question that came in on the Horizon CME text line. Interesting question. Respond to it how you feel that. And if any, you know, I'm sure others on the panel have been using AI as well and ChatGPT, so feel free to chime in. Can you address the ethics of how ChatGPT in particular was trained, given that the process included scraping pirated books? It's perhaps outside your purview of the specific presentation, but if you have any opinions that you want to share, feel free. If not, that's fine.
You know, I really don't have an opinion, and I can't really even discuss.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a tricky situation. I think there is a lot. I think we could say that AI continues to evolve. ChatGPT continues to evolve, and there's a lot of questions that I have as well, I would say. Any other comments from the rest of the panel related to AI or any ChatGPT, anything related to that? I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Art. Sorry.
I can make one comment. I know that Jess has just joined Nuvance, and Nuvance uses it quite. I've learned, I've gotten a few tips from the leadership at Nuvance and how they use it. And they use it in the same manner that I'm using it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for Art real quick here. So with the advancements in AI, like using ChatGPT, now don't get me wrong, I love it, but do you see any issues with it with like stunting imagination, ideation, or creativity?
No, in fact, what I've come to know, it maybe when it was first rolled out, absolutely. But what I have come to see is that it really is contingent on how well you communicate and your comfortability with speaking to it the same way that you and I are having a conversation. So being very clear and concise in what you're prompting it to do.
Can I ask the panel, show of hands, how many people use some form of AI, ChatGPT, in your daily work life? There you go. All right. Thank you, Art. Audrey, do you want me to spin the wheel for you, or you want to jump into it?
I mean, does it spin with one person on it? No.
Sure, it does. We have a moment. We have to give you the fanfare. Hold on. I gotta share
I'm gonna need the confetti.
I think so. Here we go. Who will it be? Very exciting.
If it doesn't pick me,
I know, then something's going on. What do you know? It's Audrey that got picked. Yeah. All right. Okay, give me a second. Stop sharing. And Audrey does not have slides. She's gone solo.
Yes, I am Audrey Torno, managing partner at Excalibur Medical Education, and I am going to be diving into the conversation about innovative formats and thanking CME Palooza for letting me try yet something else fun and innovative today. I promised Derek I won't give him a heart attack if I pop off camera momentarily. So with that, I'm going to go newscaster style for this presentation. So thank you, Derek. Nothing can make a CPD team more scared than the term innovative format, where there really isn't a defined roadmap and the potential for failure is high. Tackling an innovative format takes fortitude and the willingness to explore variations until you get it right. To help us build our courage, let's take a look at a few unique examples that have proven innovative formats can be successfully achieved. Because when it comes down to it, can we truly be innovative in a world that demands efficiency and concrete outcomes? Prepare yourselves to take a deeper look at what it means to produce innovative formats in a world of fear in today's installment of Octagons, Circles, and Rhombi, Thinking Beyond the Box. School of Chocolate is a 2021 Netflix reality food competition. Over 8 episodes, viewers are introduced to Chef Amaury Guichon, who has a reputation in the culinary world and on social media for creating fantasy pieces. Contestants of the show have come to be challenged and learn novel techniques that are not part of the mainstream pastry or chocolatier curriculums. An innovative element to this educational environment is that the 2 lowest scoring contestants do not move on to the second challenge in the episode, but instead they get extra help on the skill they didn't achieve, because we learn from failure and mastering the goal is the skill. Now, many of the methods are unique and they were introduced and created by Chef Amaury, who didn't want to be limited by the traditional tools available to him. So he sought inspiration from other fields. A lathe and chocolate? It's uncommon, but effective. And while he makes it look so easy, that is only after hours and hours of practice. I would recommend you check out episode 6 to see the contestants' first tries with the lathe, which clearly demonstrate that new things take multiple attempts to work it all out. It's October 2024, and Samuel L. Jackson is on the cover of AARP magazine, which tells you that I am getting older and this font needs to be larger. But imagine my surprise to come across an article about the world in which we all live, the world of dumplings. You see, there are so many words used to describe dumplings: beloved, versatile. Consider that this simple concept has been adapted and personalized over and over, infusing the characteristics of numerous ethnicities. From Japan, the gyoza; from Poland, the pierogi; from China, the wonton; Spain, the empanada; and from Italy, the ravioli. It's another reminder that innovation can be as simple as taking something that works and infusing your own twist on it. Now, twists come in all shapes and sizes, like the twist on a history lesson that was provided to us from Lin-Manuel Miranda with Hamilton. Inspired by a novel about Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton, it took over 7 years to bring the hip-hop infused musical to Broadway. Casting a diverse group of actors, he weaved stories of friendship, determination, and our past, making this risky format come to life and inspiring students and educators to take a look at alternative ways to modernizing learning environments. And technology has expanded those learning environments further by making them more mobile friendly, like with Duolingo. And it's easy to follow fun path that one step at a time brings a learner closer to a larger vocabulary and mastery of a new language. Now, one question lingers. How do we encourage our teams and ourselves to think bigger and bolder? Epic offers one solution. More than 325 million patients have a current electronic record in Epic's software systems. And with an intergalactic headquarters located in Verona, Wisconsin, Epic believes that creative spaces help employees innovate to solve complex problems. Spaces like Endor, their treehouse conference room that is constructed from recycled materials, or Oz, the building where their tech wizards create software solutions. Perhaps you want to head over to the barn. It's on the edge of a working farm where 300 of their employees start their day ready to gallop through the fields of productivity, and where you just might see a cow outside your office window. And when you need the collective power of everyone, meet up at Deep Space with seating for 10,000. This facility for monthly staff meetings and customer events is a one-of-a-kind, partially underground structure themed like Middle Earth. Epic is clearly showing that creativity can blossom when employees are surrounded by a culture of imagination. As we reach for tomorrow, new ideas are just waiting for us, and older ideas are ready to be recreated. We just need to see them from a different perspective. Innovation, it's about taking risks, having patience, and ultimately trying again when and if we fail. Reporting live from Hewitt, New Jersey, I'm Audrey Torno. Back to you, Derek.
That was fantastic. I'm not even sure how you did it. That's what makes it even better. Yeah, no, we won't tell. Okay, well, actually, one comment from me first. I'm a little disappointed you didn't mention the apple dumpling from Pennsylvania as part of your dumplings, but
Oh, it wasn't in the article. Please,
Oh,
please send your request into AARP.
fair enough. Oh, yeah. Well, that seems like a perfect audience for the apple dumpling. Okay, any questions, comments, or anything from the panel?
Yeah. So Audrey, that was really great. Well done. Congratulations. I really liked it. So I like this whole concept of essentially failing forward, learning as you continue to grow. And what advice do you have for people when it comes to being able to fail forward, to get back up and try it again without, tripping over their own feet or getting frustrated where they're at?
Part of it is having the courage to be fully transparent, because I think it's very challenging for us to say we tried something and it didn't work. But in doing that, having more of a growth mindset, which is just another tool that we can use instead of give yourself the moment to be frustrated with the failure. But I think once you do, kind of go back and say, so what was the one thing maybe I could do differently to avoid what occurred this time? And sometimes it's as simple as one thing. And when it's not, figure out from other examples that you're seeing from peers, if you can collaborate with them to say, here was an obstacle I couldn't figure out how to overcome. So perhaps we can work together on it and then share the knowledge moving forward.
It's nice. It's always good to have another set of eyes.
Absolutely.
Anybody else on the panel?
I have one if we have time.
Yep, we do.
We don't.
Just cut the black. Thank you, everybody. And it's not uncommon in innovative industries where you need additional resources to kind of get ideas off the ground, and it's no different in CME funding. How do you kind of set a base when you're seeking grant support for something that's innovative to encourage people to take that risk to fund something?
I would start with, you can't have everything be an unknown. So you need to go in with some proven things. That being said, if there's an established audience generation partner who has a particular strength, let's say in something that's mobile, you're leveraging their known strength. And so if you're going in then with a new format, now you're going, we know that once it's developed, it's getting out. So I think it's about trying to leverage several things that are already known entities and then infusing one element that's new. Going in with something that is like, you don't know the partner, you don't know us, you don't know this format, and we're really hoping it works, is very much like saying you're going to bring in a contractor who's never done a full kitchen renovation, and you're going to give them the opportunity to do it with like no references, no book of examples, no website. So part of it is really about saying, I've done the smaller pieces and I can demonstrate that to you. Will you give me the chance to put it all together?
That makes sense. Great job overall.
Great. I have a couple of minutes, so just going to do a little follow-up here. So Susan asked the question about, can a presenter cite their own book going back? And we also got a response back from Susan. Yes, they can, as long as the source is peer-reviewed, evidence-based, clinically relevant, and appropriate. So thank you, Susan, for that. And then one very quick question, then we'll wrap this up. AI-related, about what kind of version are you using? Are you using like the free, available to everyone, or do you have a closed system? I can speak for myself, and that in my work, we do have a closed system that we are using.
Same here.
Same.
Yeah, ours is closed too.
Free.
Free. There you go. Interesting. Kurt, how about you?
I use both. Actually, I primarily use the public version, but if I'm doing something with sensitive data, that's when I would use the closed version. But quite frankly, for most of what I do, I'm not putting data in that anyone would care about.
Yep. Okay. Good point. Good point. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let me bring up. Oh, so go ahead. Did you say
Oh
something?
no, I was just going to add, and I found it incredibly interesting that my spouse's closed system is also functionally, so you can select if you're in HR or R&D or marketing, and it's using internal resources to kind of help speak the language as well. So I think the closed systems are just as reliable or useful.
That's interesting. Interesting. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. We're going to wrap this one up. So again, a reminder, if you have a moment to please take our survey. There's a link on the live page. It's very helpful if you do that for our planning purposes. And then we have our last session of the day. There's a link on the live page. Last session of the day, if I can find it. Oh, this is our afternoon snack session sponsored by Haymarket Medical Education. Learning progression over time in narcolepsy, the impact of environmental changes, and how we evaluate behavior. And so with that, we're going to wrap this one up. A big thank you to the panel for everything that you did, putting these sessions together. If you don't mind, just hang on 1 second. I'll wrap this session up, and then we can chat a little bit. So thank you, everyone who's watching. We'll start the next session at the top of the hour, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you.